Where were we? This is my site, the window in my studio. Because of the height, I don't see anything more than swaying tree branches when I'm in the room. There's a long and winding ramp that passes directly under my window, allowing me to overhear conversations of those coming and going without really meaning to. I initially began my investigation by recording a day's worth of audio, capturing a little over 6 hours. The sounds I heard throughout are all recognizable and expected in an office building and parking lot setting. My experiment last week was to try and add in an unexpected sound along with the familiar, but, as was pointed out, to what end? My curiosity was not in the people that passed by my window, but in their conversations that I overheard. So, in that vein, I auto-transcribed the 6 hours worth of audio I had recorded. I was specifically interested in the bird audio and how that would translate. I was incredibly disappointed when, out of 6 hours, only one sentence was distinguishable. I shared this screenshot with Abby, explaining my heartbreak, and she pointed out the significance of that sentence in the middle. Don't forget to order your magic. The original dialogue had gotten lost in translation, and the words transcribed into the page were nonsensical. Initially, I was so annoyed at this result that I missed reading this line, but the act of translation, or lack thereof, made me pause and reflect. Is this not what I do with my own work? Take an object and put it through a series of paces to explore boundaries, zooming in, stretching, disassembling, to understand it in a new way, to develop a new conversation? This idea of translation stuck with me. Over the weekend, I put several furniture pieces together in my studio, 2 from IKEA and 1 from Crate & Barrel. Each came with their own series of pictorial instructions, translating the process into images. As is known, IKEA's instructions were simple and easy to follow, breaking down each step into an actionable task. Crate & Barrel, however, was a terrible assembly experience. Although a simple table, the entire process was broken down into only 4 steps, and within each of those 4 steps were multiple actions. It was difficult to follow and understand. I began to think about these opposite experiences in regard to translation, specifically how the pictorial instructions can be more or less complicated depending on how much you break them down. I'd already translated my audio once, but how could I do it again in a visual way? How could I break it down? At this point, I need to get off the computer and start making with my hands. I went to my studio, but I had no idea where to start. I decided to procrastinate and assemble my IKEA utility cart. As I unpacked the cart, I looked at the pieces and thought, why not photograph these? The cart was a part of my studio space, something I had brought in to try and create order in a system. So I treated the utility cart the same way I had treated Project 2's pinwheel and Project 1's letter A. I zoomed in. I used a macro lens to document the individual parts of the utility cart. I remembered what Martin had suggested about working with film in the last project, and while this was a digital camera, I went ahead and printed out 50 images so I could work physically. Originally, I was going to try and pin these images to my wall, but my studio is getting painted this week, so I didn't want to have to move and remove them. I'd saved this cardboard from an IKEA table and momentarily pinned it to the wall vertically before realizing that it was roughly the same size and shape as my window. I quickly pinned it horizontally and then began putting up images.